worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we're a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular horror franchises. And today we are talking about Pumpkinhead from 1988. And I just got to say right at the top, John, this movie has two things that I just love and get automatic affection from me in a horror movie. That's an incredible design, a craggy-faced, great-looking monster with pathos. It just warms my heart. And the second one is the Pumpkinhead design, you know? Boom! Slam on Lance Henriksen. But I
take that.
Take that. I love that man, actually. So that is all said with absolute heart involved. So, seeing Lance Henriksen in the titles, you just know that it's going to be a good movie. I am a fan, so that is a big old goof.
You're going to at least get some Lance Henriksen out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And so just to refresh, had you seen this one before?
I had. Yeah, I watched it a couple years ago, I think, as a part of a big Halloween watch.
Yeah, I remember seeing this one when I was pretty young, probably on cable or something. So, like, this isn't one that I've seen a ton, but it's definitely kind of been in my brain as a horror fan. However, I have not seen any of the sequels. But I think a lot of this was just, again, that creature design and that Lance Henriksen and that atmosphere that has, brought me back to this movie a few times in my life for sure. And I will say, out of the gate, there's something rad about the fact that there are 5 people credited with creature design.
Yes.
So you just know it's going to be solid.
Well, this is a little bit like Robert Kurtzman's Wishmaster, in the sense that it's an effects guy. This is his first movie. But I guess Stan Winston said for those 5 guys, he's like, this is your thing. I'm the client in this, so you guys do it. Whereas, I think Kurtzman maybe was a little bit more involved. Yeah. So they were like, as soon as I saw that, there were 5 people for creature effects. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's going to be pretty sweet. It's not like when you see the 5 names for writing, you're like, oh, I don't know.
Oh,
but 5 names for creature effects, you're like, okay, that's probably gonna be a lot of creature effects.
Totally. This script passed from writer to writer in a desperate attempt to save it. Yeah,
pretty much.
But also for us, I was really excited just because, as you pointed out before, Saw movies, nothing supernatural or creature-like, definitely not for Psycho. So we're kind of back to the loving arms of 80s monster effects, which is where my heart lies, I think.
Yeah. This is a combo of folk horror creature stuff with slasher, because once Pumpkinhead gets out there, that's kind of just what he does. But
he's a dragger.
I guess more of a dragger, shover, bike, saboteur. I guess
exactly. Also, this is the first film that we've reviewed that is based on a poem.
Yes, which
I think that is important to give the listeners the full poem treatment. Pumpkinhead by Ed Justin. Keep away from Pumpkinhead, unless you're tired of living. His enemies are mostly dead. He's mean and unforgiving. Laugh at him and you're undone, but in some dreadful fashion. Vengeance he considers fun, and plans it with a passion. Time will not erase or blot a plot that he has been brewing. It's when you think that he's forgot, he'll conjure your undoing. Bolted doors and windows barred, guard dogs prowling in the yard won't protect you in your bed. Nothing will, from Pumpkinhead. But yeah, like you were saying, this is a Stan Winston joint, and he designed he is probably the greatest creature effects guy out there. Only other people would be, the guys from Thing and stuff like that. But like, this man created the Xenomorph, so of course I love him for Aliens. He did everything in Terminator. He went on to do Jurassic Park, all the big ones. This was his first attempt, like you were saying. He was just like, he got the script and he just said, hey, this is an opportunity for me to jump behind the director's chair, which, that can be good and bad. You never really know. But he knew how to stretch their budget. It was only like $3.5 million. And so he got some solid stuff for that budget with his background.
Yes.
But unfortunately, this one didn't do as well as people had hoped. And then he got most excited to make a movie centered around a creature where you couldn't tell that it was a little person in a suit. and he made the family comedy A Gnome Named Gnorm, which John and I had both seen recently.
Yes.
Not exactly a Pumpkinhead follow-up, and I think that kind of sent him back into effects world.
Yeah, well, I think he definitely has more confidence behind the camera in A Gnome Named Gnorm. I think there's definitely things here you can see. I mean, I think you're constrained by budget and other things. But like this could be because it's so atmospheric in places, like particularly around the holler and the witch's shack, whatever. That like some of it is really really great, but some of it is really lacking. And
yeah,
I think it's sort of finding your footing. There wasn't the same kind of atmosphere in A Gnome Named Gnorm. It was just Anthony Michael Hall's weird hair and not great. But this one, it's for being like so low budget. Yeah, all of it's on the screen for sure.
So yeah, like you were saying, this is folk horror for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is American folk horror as opposed to, like British folk horror, I suppose. But like what I love about this is aside from like a motorcycle, there's nothing in this film that places it or dates it. I feel like it feels out of time in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, it's a little like backwoods, I guess you could say nicely. However, it doesn't like this story could take place anytime.
Yeah.
Really. It's just a classic revenge type of thing.
Right. And like what revenge does to you. But like they do date it at the beginning in like that the first thing you see is in 1957, and certainly like you see with the motorbikes or whatever and some of the styles. But I like that it does feel sort of like a timeless story, like a folk tale or fairy tale or something that's kind of handed down. And the opening credits demonstrate that, and the fact that you have this kind of like dark theme song. Who like the guy who did the music for it, Richard Stone, did a bunch of music for like Tiny Toons. Which is kind of funny.
Oh, yeah. Yes. That's amazing.
So it's this kind of like dark, ominous thing, but then eventually, like, towards the end, starts getting some like countrified twangs in there.
Exactly.
And I just like that idea that, like, okay, so you understand the vibe we're going for, but now we're going to kind of Cajun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's cool. Yeah, that it just feels like this version of a particular myth. It's a pretty simple story, so it definitely has this could be happening at any point. It could be horses instead of motorbikes.
Sure. Actually, yeah. And with this, when I say that it could take place anywhere, like that doesn't mean to say that it doesn't have a sense of place, because I really think it does. It is specific. It's, it may not be the most original sense of place for a folk horror type of deal, but it completely works with this, especially with the atmosphere that they provide. Mm-hmm. So just getting started, like we said, 1957, a family. We find out later that this is Lance Henriksen as a boy. His father won't let somebody inside who is just pounding for his life, saying, let me in, let me in. He knows that there's something out there chasing him. He refuses to let the man in. And the boy sees some crazy demonic creature in the distance. And that's our Pumpkinhead. Not a full reveal yet, but the Pumpkinhead creature takes out this poor neighbor.
Al, the neighbor cries,
"It's coming! I didn't kill that girl. I don't know nothing about that, and I don't want to. I said I did, Tom, but I didn't.
I don't want to know nothing about it." Yeah, it's not even just like, you're not coming in here. It's very much like, don't know nothing, can't help you. Don't know, just leave me out of it. And I like that setting the tone that it's not only is it just like this guy's being put upon some, by something, but like the entire area like knows about it.
Yeah, it reminds me of the end of Roadhouse, where after the guy dies, they all just say like, nope, didn't see nothing. Yep. So like we're just all going to turn a blind eye to whatever this poor man may or may not have done and his cruel fate.
Well, see, now you've gotten me too excited that somehow Roadhouse is going to tie into some of the sequels.
Man, so does Dalton fight against Pumpkinhead, or is he like a good guy avenging spirit by that point? He's like kind of a Terminator type of thing, like where he comes over to the good guy's side?
Yeah, I think it's basically like a Roadhouse remake, but it's the Pumpkinhead is Dalton. The Ben Gazzara character is bad. He's done all this stuff, and so the bartender conjures up Pumpkinhead to be the bouncer at his bar.
I like that. Yeah. Sorry, dead air. I was just thinking about
just lost in your reverie of
I was just thinking about Patrick Swayze doing Tai Chi, frankly, and just
Oh, I get it.
And landlord Santa Claus just fanning himself, which is just so good. Anyway, this is the Roadhouse cast, and I'll gladly talk about Roadhouse whenever I can.
Sorry, everybody.
Anyway, Speaking of hard bodies doing Tai Chi, we do cut to Lance Henriksen, bare-chested and oiled up and carrying a flamethrower, which is kind of rocking, especially now in this Roadhouse context.
Yeah.
He's burning some bramble, and he's all grown up, and he kind of has this somewhat goofy-looking son who's playing with a dog. I think it's just his glasses on this kid, but he's a pretty adorable little kid, but he's got a look to him.
They lip-nickied this kid big time. Like, it's just, he's using his cuteness like a cudgel. Just, and this whole section of it is a little bit laughable in how, Lance Henriksen and his son are just the happiest people ever. And nothing will ever go wrong, and everything is
nothing will change
always.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole, like, you quickly surmise that the mother has died, and they're not only the happiest two out there, but they've overcome some stuff, and they're better, almost better for it in a way. The two of them together.
Yeah, I do like that. So when he's washing the son's hands, he tells this story.
When I was your age, great grandmama used to wash my hands, and she was so old that the skin on her hands was thin as tissue paper. It felt so good.
That was something Lance Henriksen brought to the script. Like, he's like, yeah, this is my grandma. She was like from Norway or something like that. But like, she did that to him. And so he's like, that way we can, give this kid a place and a lineage. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Cause
that works. Yeah.
I think it does. This movie does. Well, I think it could be a bit more, like, you could pump up the atmosphere for sure. I think it does do a good job of creating a feeling and a place.
Yeah, definitely. Billy gives his dad a necklace that he has made as the dad starts telling him a story. You know that's going to come back later. The moment a cute kid gives you a creepy looking faux horror looking necklace.
Yeah, it was almost like Fisher Price's my first full core necklace, because there is like blue and yellow and just
right.
Very safe.
Did you follow the instructions, kid? Cut to 2 cars worth of people. This was a little bit, maybe it's just that kind of thing where you just notice the editing sometimes. I had a hard time noticing like if these 2 people were together, like their sense of relationship together, because it's like it's a truck full of kids and this one like hotshot car running around doing a bunch of stuff, and it's basically all your teen cannon fodder, like any Friday the 13th movie. Well, right here.
Yeah, because there's a joke. It opens with a joke. One car full of the kids, Steve, talking about what we learn is his brother, but he goes,
really, Tracy, Joel is a great guy once you get to know him.
And then it cuts to him being a giant asshole.
Right.
And like, I don't know who these people are, so that just doesn't work. Like, if you watch it again, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But on first viewing, it's very confusing. You're like, well, who's this guy? Is he going to run them off the road? But then you find out.
Yeah. And he immediately does the whole, like, give me a beer while I'm driving, which, just dictates just kind of asshole.
That's how you know he's cool.
Yeah, I had a thought about him, but we can wait until the tragedy happens. Sure. But cut to then Ed is Lance Henriksen opening up his general store with his kid, and this is where again that soundtrack just completely telegraphs country folk, right, and like make no mistake,
it does very much seem like an ad for like a small town grocer. In that, like, we're not like the big boy. Our stuff is organic and cared for, because it's just like the way it's lit and very warm. And in fact, their cabin where they live, it's kind of like they bought it from. It was like Tony Scott's getaway house, because it's just full of smoke all the time.
Full of smoke haze and like that harsh lighting.
Yeah, but like it is very idyllic with the sun rays coming in through the window. Yeah, they're just, their life is so perfect, and everything's going to stay the same and never going to change.
I hate that I just thought of this, and I'm glad that I didn't think of it during the movie, but it does remind me of those kind of like Morning in America, those Ronald Reagan ads at the time. And so if any of our younger listeners look up a couple of the Ronald Reagan for president ads in the 80s, and his slogan was, "It's morning in America." And just being into horror stuff, I just think of MOURNING, which I'm sure smarter people than me recut his ads for. The teens stop at the store and they make fun of the kids' glasses, which reminding me that happened. Now I feel bad, and I would fit in with these teens actually.
Gypsy, no.
Check out this kid's glasses. We're talking Coke bottles.
It's okay. Let me put it this way: it's one thing for 2 grown men to make a joke about a kid's glasses to hundreds of people. It's nothing to making fun of him to his face.
To his giant face, you mean?
Look at that kid. His glasses are dumb. And no one enjoys it. No one is friends with Joel. But if they'd left, what happens wouldn't have happened.
Right. Would not have happened. So what happens is they unload a couple of dirt bikes and they just start tearing ass around the little area, doing peel outs and stunts and whatever dirt bike kids do.
Yeah, because they're like just a few miles away from where they're going. They're staying at a cabin. They're just a few miles away, and while they're getting supplies, Joel, being all pissed about no one laughing at his jokes, he's like, I'm just going to peel out. Gets on one of the dirt bikes and just starts just leaves and like tears out.
Yeah.
And then we get the first sense that Steve, his brother, is just a gigantic wuss.
You have to encourage him.
Maggie, he's my brother.
You know, he's a giant butthole. Like, nothing I can do about it.
Totally.
No, they don't know what this land is, who anyone owns it or anything. No, they're just tearing up around it.
Yeah, and what's great about it too is like this is the classic general store right before the cabin escape place. So you've got your beginnings of Texas Chainsaw, a little bit of the Friday the 13th. Like, I would argue that, Lance Henriksen wouldn't necessarily be the Harbinger here, but the Harbinger are those weird kids that show up and start taunting everybody and saying Pumpkinhead's going to get you.
Yeah.
In kind of like a Freddy Krueger's coming for you type of song. But, all of a sudden we don't have a creepy old man saying, don't go that way. Now we've got like 5 creepy children saying like, they sing it like a folk tale, like a warning tale, essentially. And I think it's pretty effective.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these are the progeny of Mr. Wallace, played by George Buck Flower, who, listeners, if you've kept up with the movies we're watching, was also in Wishmaster as the bum in Wishmaster.
Yeah.
A great career of playing weirdos. Something happens with the kids, and they're all bullying one of them because he's being bad, and Pumpkinhead comes for bad people. Among those children, just one quick blip is Mayim Bialik from Blossom and The Big Bang Theory, and now Jeopardy.
Yeah, don't say that.
Big
Bang Theory. Yeah.
Oh, it's the funniest show. People love it.
Yeah.
And then did you recognize Bunt?
No.
That is Pino Petto, Brian Bremer, back on the scene.
Goodness.
From Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 5, The Toy Maker.
Man.
Yeah. Because it was bugging me because I'm like, I have a thing with this. This was one of the problems I had with Jughead, a different folk horror, like backwoods folk horror thing, is that like when you're a backwoods person, but you're still like too pretty. You know what I mean? Like, like you are very soft for like being a teenage boy
in a hard life.
But I did kind of recognize that impish charm, even though he wasn't being disgusting.
Yes,
in this one. So yeah. So,
but man, I that is such a fun side project or byproduct of doing this show, where it's just like, and I'm not as good as recognizing these types of people as like you or Michael are a lot of times, but it's just like, I love how they seem to all travel in the same horror circles, and they're just like, yep, that's me. Yeah, what did you do last? Well, I did Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 5. What was your name? Don't want to know.
You're not going to see the movie.
How was
what
it?
Do you care?
Yeah. How was it? It was a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see connections to other horror movies throughout this, just in terms of not just the people involved, but also I think thematically and the way the creature works reminded me a lot of a couple of different Clive Barker things that we'll get into.
For sure.
As we get there, but it was neat without in this way that didn't necessarily feel 100% like derivative or like this obvious pastiche of these kind of things. But
yeah, this does have its own identity. I think.
Yeah,
the dirt bikes are still driving around doing stunts, cool stunts. And Ed has to go home and grab some feed for a customer, and he leaves Billy alone at his store to watch the place. At first, you might think, like, is that irresponsible? But I don't know. I feel like for the time and the place, like, kids grow up quick. Yeah. Although Ed does know that folks from the city are here now.
Right.
So he is stuck between a rock and a hard place, though.
But I think he's, these are, this is a safe, pretty insular area. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of traffic that comes through. And I don't know if he's put together yet that these dumbasses are tearing up around the place. He thought maybe they're just, they did their business. Now they're going to leave. Because George Buck Flower, Mr. Wallace, has some needs, getting his supplies for his filthy family, and realizes he doesn't have. He's like, "Oh, I need the feed as well," and it's like, "Oh, I got to go get the feed." George Buck Flower cannot wait. He cannot wait. He has a busy bumpkin lifestyle to get to. He's got like a whittling meeting. He's got a hootin' at 12 and a hollering at 12:30. There's no way he could possibly Give up any time.
That calendar is just jam packed with honking and tonking. It's just, it is everything. Well, I mean, he's got to be to bed by like 8 so he can get up at 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
If he is allowed 8 hours, I don't know.
I have questions about where he lives too, because like,
oh yes,
yeah, we'll get there. But so Lance Henriksen has to take off to go get the feed because he's going to deliver it. The good guy that he is, he's going to deliver it to Mr. Wallace.
Right. Yeah. So the kid is told specifically, don't let the dog get loose. Of course, the dog gets loose.
Also a famous dog. That's the dog from Gremlins.
Yes, yeah. I did happen to see that. That's pretty great.
And I also like that the real dog's name is Mushroom.
Mushroom the dog.
I think that's a great name for a dog. I enjoyed that.
Of course, the dog gets loose. He runs around out to where the teens are racing their dirt bikes. Billy goes running after him, of course. 2 dirt bikes come screaming over a hill. One barely misses him, and the second one just like completely nails him. My first thought was like, at least the teens are all remorseful that they hit a kid on a dirt bike. But of course, the guy who hits him, Joel, mentions immediately he's been drinking and he needs to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's also like, somehow Steve manages to miss the key. He goes over the thing and it's like, oh, I have enough wherewithal to get out. I think Joel's just a bad seed.
You think Joel hit him? Hit him on purpose?
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that he's drinking. And also, because the rest of the time they do call it an accident, and I think that's stretching it a bit. And perhaps it wasn't malicious, but they were out tearing around somewhere they shouldn't have been, and I don't know. So I had a hard time at first getting on board with some of these because I'm like, you killed a child,
right? Yeah,
that's hard to get on your side about.
Ed gets back. And he starts running, knows that something is amiss immediately, and he finds Billy's body. There's no music here, which I think is really effective. And this whole scene actually really does work for me. And this stuff leading up to it, and then it's just punctuated by this Lance Henriksen glare.
Yeah.
Like right at that guy that I think I would just completely fall to pieces at if that guy looked at me like that.
Because everyone left Steve behind. Like, Joel takes off. He's like, I got warrants, and takes off. With his girlfriend, and then the rest of the people go. They leave to take off after him, and to try to get help, and because they don't know where Lance Henriksen is. So he's like, well, I'll just stay here with the kid, who's not fully dead yet, but he's not doing great.
Yeah,
and the dog is fine, as we said. But yeah, Lance Henriksen just destroys him. Just the kid's like, there's something I can do to help, and just the look he gives him is great.
Ugh. All the teens are now at the vacation cabin, naturally panicking. The main guy, Joel, he just rips the phone cord from the wall.
Yeah.
And
call for
basically
help.
It's just, everyone against this guy now.
First of all, again, before we get too far down the line, one more connection. You know where they're staying?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes. It is the Friday the 13th 4 house.
Friday the 13th house from part 4. Yeah. That's it. You can see the stove where Crispin Glover gets nailed to it with the corkscrew. But and I noticed like the big window. That was what tipped me off. There's the big window that Jason came through. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about that, but somehow it just clicked. But so they're up there already. I'm like, why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
Why don't you why the vacation's ruined?
Yeah. What are you guys gonna do?
When we got there, we started rocky. Joel killed a kid, but then we grilled some steaks. It was a really fun time once we all chilled out.
Yeah. Drank some cheap beer, skinny dipped, like you're supposed to.
But they're still there for some reason. And one of them, Tracy, is like, I'm going to call for help. And Joel, rips the stuff off the wall. And he lets us know that he's been his girlfriend mentions that he's been in trouble recently for a similar incident and is on probation. So you like Joel even less now, despite his cool leather jacket. And then there's a scuffle. They try to get the keys from Joel to leave. And he hits Chris with a log, knocks him out, and Joel sucks. Yeah,
and here I think that as a writing exercise or as a thought exercise, I wonder just how I would feel if all of these teens were completely beside themselves with remorse and they didn't know what to do. Because in slasher movies, you're excited to see the kills, right?
Yeah.
And so when Pumpkinhead starts doing his thing, what if Joel was just yes, manslaughter, of course. Does that mean he needs to be killed by a pumpkin demon? I don't know. But I just think it would be interesting if everybody was just out of their head, sad, remorseful, specifically Joel, for the sake of what comes later with Lance Henriksen having to deal with what happens when you go for vengeance, I guess. Just maybe a little bit different intent, maybe a little bit different characterization for everybody. I wonder how that would go over. I mean, you're still upset with him for being negligent and killing a child.
The only two people, and they're spoiler alert, they're the only two survivors of the whole thing, are Chris and I think that's Tracy, are the two that are against Joel from the beginning. They're like, you suck. Everyone else, like Steve, as we mentioned, is just a worm.
Spineless.
And we'll do anything for his brother. But like the two girls, one of them is his girlfriend, also very spineless. But then Maggie, who's just there, like I think she suffers a lot for because she doesn't necessarily do anything to stop her. She kind of goes, man, this sucks. But I was very frustrated at first watching this because it did seem like there's a lot of like, we got to carry on. I only get 2 weeks vacation a year. Like I'm not letting this get in the way of it. But also, why didn't just leave?
Yeah, you could probably get away with it.
Your cars
and just live with your own guilt.
Yeah. Although it would be a little bit, I mean, it would take it out of the realm of this, but it would be more interesting to be like they leave, but still it finds them, rather than be like they hang around and wait to get punched in the face by Pumpkinhead.
Well, come on, that's got to be Pumpkinhead Goes to the City in like part 3 or part 4. He follows the city folk back. Yeah, pig in the city, pumpkin in the city. Ed takes his son back and hugs him as he dies, light streaming through the window, as mentioned before, inside their amazing cabin. Steve has locked a few of the other teens in a room. Or was that Joel?
That was Joel.
Joel locked a couple people in a room. Now we start getting to the good stuff. Yeah. Ed takes Billy's body to the guy he needed to get the feed to. He just said, city folks run him over. And he asks about an old woman.
She lives somewhere in the mountains hereabouts. Some folks say as how she's got powers.
I never heard no such woman.
Mr. Wallace, please.
I can't tell you what I don't know.
And he gets info from a kid. He gives him $10 for this info, for the name. And her name is Haggis, which is pretty great.
And he gets that info from Bunt. Bunt tells her. Bunt tells him about
exactly.
Haggis. Well, and there. So I was trying to figure out, because when he rolls over to their place, like I thought, this must be like the nearby village. But I think it's all just Mr. Wallace's property, and like he just has this gigantic Craster ass family.
Exactly.
Because like no one else like reacts to anything, and you see his son, because Bunt is his grandson, I guess. Mm-hmm. This movie does a fair amount of leaving me wanting more in good ways, where I'm like, yes, what's the story of this area? Or like that they all know about Pumpkinhead. Like what's right. We see a little bit of a history, like you said at the beginning, but then later when the teens are quote unquote marked, how do they know that?
Yes.
Yeah. But like it's not in this like, well, how would he know? It's more just like, no, something's going on here. This is an area that
it's mysterious.
Yeah.
And,
that's a more articulate way to put it. It's mysterious.
Right. If you haven't grown up on this land, you don't belong, and you won't know our ways, right, yeah. Which is very much a folk horror trope. It's just like people from the city go to the country. There's old ways, and they're like, oh my God, look at Wicker Man, look at any of those type of things. Carries the kid's body down into the swamp with a little shack, and man, I love that set or that location.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, this all the scenes with Haggis might be my favorite parts of the movie. It is just oozing with atmosphere, good old swampy country, and then just the makeup on her and how they deal with it is how they light it and film it.
Yes.
Fantastic.
It's so solid. She repeatedly says she can't bring the boy back from the dead. I don't have that power. But if you go to a graveyard where people used to bury the kin they was ashamed of, and man, that is such a great, like, fun thing to just sit and stew on. Yeah, like that is some great writing. I love that stuff. Yeah, because I mean, in my stupid 20th century mind, it's like, oh, this, Tony's jaw clicked when he chewed, so we had to put him down and bury him in the graveyard. Yeah. Just weird little day-to-day annoyances, like Jerry Seinfeld runs the graveyard. What's the deal with his clicking jaw?
Bury him. That's the answer. But I do love, like, so it's all just like lit from this big fireplace, and you just get these profiles of her, man. Long, drawn-out profiles, which I think is cool just from a makeup effect of like, this looks great. look at
Yes,
it.
good
You can
call.
look at this for a
Yeah.
long time, and you're not going to go like, oh, I could see the flap or something like that. Like this looks really cool. And it's just, it makes it even more ominous that she's just like not really even reacting to him being there, that she's just kind of stoically sitting there. And it's just really, really creepy. And I like when you get the shot from behind where it just looks like a skull and a mountain of hay, just like her hair is all
for sure.
silver.
He finds the graveyard and picks up it just seemed like, unless I missed something, he picked a very dramatic yet kind of arbitrary place to start digging.
Yes.
Like in this graveyard, I was just like, go find the coolest damn place that you can and start digging. And I think that's what he did.
I mean, it feels like a video game. You're like, well, okay, what's the graveyard? Where to go? Oh, this big raised area. That seems like exactly where I would go.
And there's a music sting that kind of like makes it even more appropriate that he's just like found the right place.
Yeah. The jump scare digging. Yeah. But but I was kind of, I don't know, with all the fogs and the pumpkin, I was worried we're getting to some Tim Burton territory here. But
right.
No, they kept it not ooky and spooky. They just kept it evil. He digs up something, not quite a pumpkin.
Not quite a human. Takes it back to the witch. Inside, the witch starts performing her ritual. She cuts Lance on the hand, gets some of his blood, and he does some to the dead son, grabs a little bit of his blood, and starts her witchy ritual. He passes out as the little Pumpkinhead is born. And I love this little guy.
I love this little guy. That scene kind of bugged me because, I mean, I always like in movies where it's like, we need some of your blood. Oh, just here's the most blood possible from it. Like, it's not just like prick your finger. It's just, here's this geyser blood coming out of his arm. But like, she's getting this stuff together and like doing whatever it is with her blood, his blood. Like, it'll cut to Lance Henriksen and he's standing there like woozy. You know, it seems like because he's losing blood, but also it seems like perhaps some magic is taking him. When she takes the kid's blood and then like feeds the concoction to this thing, which is all like wrapped up in this like dilapidated burlap bag that kind of looks like dried spaghetti. Yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Love it. And it like starts like sizzling as soon as it hits its lips. And then it cuts back and it's her in the foreground and Lance Henriksen in the background and he passes out. And that's a very like comedy blocked shot. Like
sure it
in the
is.
wide shot where he's like, the thing's real. Oh, like I'm the father.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, that kind of took me out of it.
Twins?
But, you know, it's that kind of thing where I'm like, okay, well, he's a first time director and he's just, you know, but apparently he was a fun to be on set, you know.
That's the scuttlebutt. Everybody was like real happy. Yeah. And
that he wasn't too,
that's
he
cool.
didn't feel too pressured about it. I mean, he's also worked with James Cameron a couple of times. So he probably is like, hey, what if I didn't do that?
Yeah, exactly. What if I inspired trust and confidence by being kind on these late night shoots? Shadow rises on the wall. Lil Pumpkinhead stands up to a full height of maybe like 8 or 9 feet tall, which is pretty great. As the fire flickers, like that whole bit is pretty classic and awesome.
I was watching a behind the scenes where the creature creators were talking about how like the most important thing is the silhouette.
Yes.
Like you can get his details and it looks cool, but like you got to have like a cool looking silhouette.
That's so true.
And this definitely does. And you can tell they were coming off of doing Aliens, that this still had a very xenomorph feel to it.
Oh,
it's still its own thing, but it definitely draws from it.
It does. You know, you got your elongated head, you got those long legs, even the tail is kind of xenomorphy looking. On his way home, Ed sees the boy sit up in the truck and ask him, "What'd you do, Daddy?" This scene worked for me, actually, and it did say, like, evidently Lance Henriksen was a little bit reticent to join this production, especially because he's like, what's with the name Pumpkinhead? It's got that kind of RoboCop connotation to it. Like nobody's going to take this seriously. But he got to this scene and he was like, okay, I'll do it now because there's like a weird, creepy interaction between him and his son.
Yeah. Well, and that scene, I will say that was effective enough that I forgot. I immediately snapped out of right before what's happening is you're seeing Lance Henriksen drive away, kind of not sure what he's unleashed. Mm-hmm. And he's going up this hill and this car is coming down this hill and almost hits him and he has to like skid out. The action's all wrong. Like it seems like we're watching him go one way in the close-ups, but the car's going the other way.
But the car's going the other way?
It's jarring. It doesn't really work. But then like that moment happens. The kid like wakes up. It's like, what'd you do, Daddy? And you're like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. I'm back in the movie now.
Also, when somebody says, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
That's never a good thing. They're
yeah.
implying that you did something bad, you know?
Yeah, particularly if someone dead says that to you, it's generally not good.
That's also true. Yes.
What'd you do today? I'm just casually dead.
Yeah. Right. Raise the Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, but I like that he already is like, this is probably not great. That I like.
Right. Yeah.
And I like that whole element of, and I think Lance Henriksen plays it really well, is that like, I'm this very pissed off father. It's not like fully cold blooded, like that this anger was born out of love. And then that's still in the back of his head, that maybe that should have been expressed through vengeance.
Cutting back to the kids at the cabin, they're just kind of doing their teens at the cabin type of thing. A little less joyful though this time. And we're now back at Ed Harley at his wife's grave, telling her they killed our boy, and now they're going to pay, as he digs a grave for his son. Two of the teens are out walking, and they get jumped by Pumpkinhead. This is the first Pumpkinhead attack scene, and unfortunately, he just sort of pulls the guy out of frame. First up and then kind of to the side. Yeah. And then it cuts to Ed, who passes out he goes into some sort of like fugue state while Pumpkinhead is doing his business. So this begins, I was going to say implication, but no, it is a connection between the two of them. Yeah. I suppose brought on by the blood and, the fact that he is wishing this vengeance upon these people.
Also like Wishmaster, that connection.
There you go.
And I was actually very happy to see this guy, though. This was Steve, the wimpy brother. But he also, I didn't really enjoy his performance much. He's trying to convince Joel to do the right thing, but he's also at one point they're all, everyone's all angry and sitting around, and two of the characters are locked in a bathroom or in a closet. And yeah, he's like,
well, fuck it. Let's just kidnap Chris and Tracy and go to Mexico. It
just felt like all wrong-headed. Maybe it was just in the delivery. But when Maggie leaves, he's like, he shows her this cross around this neck. And it's like, I need you to believe in this and believe that we'll be safe and stay with us and don't run out. And then, the Pumpkinhead grabs him, pulls him away. Or does he throw him against the tree, or does he just drop him?
Oh, he takes him up way into the branches. Right. Is that which one that have? And that's kind of a cool shot, because you see Pumpkin, the death isn't that interesting, but you see a cool shot way up angle into the branches, and Pumpkinhead looks like a predator, not like the Predator, but an animal of some sort, perched up in a tree, and he's got Steve.
Well, what I like is that, and then that same Predator thing, so Maggie comes running back in and telling everyone, crying, that this thing took Steve, and oh my God. And then Chris and Joel go and investigate, try to find Steve, and Joel has a gun that he brought with him.
Yes.
And they're trying to calm Maggie down, and she's praying, she's being all religious, and I love that shot where she's like, nothing, only God can stop him now. And they turn to go do something else, and you just see Pumpkinhead walk by the window.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's an old scare, but I like it. Then next thing you know, Steve is dangling around outside. And I got so excited by this, because I took a entomology class in college. About bugs. And there's a kind of bug called the assassin bug.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different kinds, but this one lives outside or around termite mounds. And what he'll do is he'll kill a termite and then wave it around in front of one of the entrances, because the termites use the bodies of them to bolster the hive and do stuff, whatever. Yeah. So he just waves it around, and then when other ones come out, he gets them. And that's what he does in this. Nice. He just waves this hey, I'm Steve, come get me. And then they go and he nabs Maggie this time.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. And this was the thing that really made me started me thinking about Clive Barker, is that when he has Maggie, he draws with his nail, he carves a cross on her head. And so I was immediately thinking of Rawhead Rex, where you have this this ancient evil that's been, it doesn't have all the baggage of Rawhead Rex. It's got its different kind of baggage, but ancient evil, and it's you believe in this Jesus thing, here you go. Yeah. It means nothing to me. And then they do that a little bit later when they go to the church thing. Yeah, this starts the death of the deaths of all these people. Yeah. The Pumpkinhead onslaught.
I still enjoy everything, but this is where it does start to get to. There's 3 or 4 teens running around in bluish dark woods with fog, and then occasionally the monster comes on the screen with a cool sound effects and stuff. it ain't terrible, but it's just it starts to become a tad disconnected with everybody just kind of like running around from out of frame to into frame to out of another shot. And that's it.
I do like how they always present Pumpkinhead with like the flashing lights, and maybe it's just my love of the David Lynch bright spotlight on evil stuff.
Absolutely.
That it's always somewhat magical when he shows up. That sounds more positive than it is, but
magical.
Yeah, it's just magical. It's delightful. But there's this
uncanny and weird.
Yeah, there's this other thing at work, not just like, well, we conjured this monster up, and even though he is operating as a slasher, giving it that at least adds something to it. Gives it a little zhuzh than just like, I'm a guy in a suit that's murdering you now.
Ed is on his way to somewhere in his truck for a second. It's kind of a harsh cut, and then we realize that he's going to see the hag. And he's already aware that he did something bad by raising this monster. And he's basically on his way to be like, hey, shut it all down. I don't want to do this after all. This is a poor choice on my part.
Yeah, because they don't really like fully establish what that connection is he has to the monster. Again, in this way that I found more mysterious than confusing. Yeah. That it is this like, is it stealing his life force to do it? Is it like part of him dying, or is he becoming the monster? Is he like sharing this psychic space with it? What's happening here? But it was, I thought it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, this could be just another one of those like less is more. Yeah, like absolutely. Just don't try to come up with the reason. I can buy it. And especially in this, the tone of this it reaches into fairy tale just a little bit. And that kind of connection does not need to be spelled out in a fairy tale to me.
This is something that I was thinking about earlier that I was going to mention, is that I just rewatched Mandy recently.
Me too.
And I definitely like thought of that during this movie, just with the sort of idyllic location. And again, this very simple story that ends to this quest of vengeance.
Yeah.
And thinking about like a very atmospheric version of this in the style of Mandy, that kind of thing as well. It's like, but basically just that here's this very simple story that we can tell in this fancy way. And like there's going to be these kind of like leaps of logic or whatever, but if you can do it in a way that it's fine. Like the story's broad enough and things are broad that it still works. Like I don't want to know anything about haggis.
No, exactly.
Like I like that she's just this known quantity in the woods. People know about her. I don't want to bring you to her because, I mean, that was Buck Flowers was like, I'm not telling you where she is because nothing good is going to come of it. That there is still this font of evil and power, but they're like, not for you. Stay out of there.
Yeah. I don't want to find out that little baby Pumpkinhead was her son at one point or something like that. Like unneeded. She's just a weird, evil witch.
Weird forest evil.
At this point, the kids are back in the cabin again, and Pumpkinhead just places the girl's body through a window, almost like delicately with his claw, which was such a great shot, I think.
Yeah, great, because I was already on this sort of assassin bug high of seeing a thing I recognized. Because I'm like, oh, he's doing it again. But I like that it is very much like, hi, I'm Maggie, look at that again. But then he just kind of like crushes her through the window. Not like Jason, not like throws her, but more just like, I'm just going to return this. I'm done with this. And I just thought I'd give it back to you.
I'm done with this body. He just
sort of like sloughs it onto the counter. Like, there you go.
Yeah. Please slide the body under the door when you're done with her, Pumpkinhead.
Please return any unused portion. I wasn't sure at this point, like, so is this done out of malice? Is he really just toying with them? Is this, like I said, sort of a more natural, like, oh, I'm trying to lure them out? Because it just felt so non-committal. It was like head against the thing. I think it is probably more malicious, but it was it was more fun to do that than just like nothing against Mr. Voorhees, but throwing a guy through a window yet again.
This seemed a little bit more of a intention. So he takes one of the girls up into a tree and does another one of the there's another solid shot of him like roosting very high up, and then he drops her from there and she dies, hitting the forest floor. Old man up the road approaches the teens who are trying to steal his truck with a gun drawn and says he can't help them anymore. And this is what you were referring to earlier. They are marked.
They're marked, yeah.
So this is where Buck is just like, you guys are beyond help at this point, and
I just got very excited
can't do anything for
about
you.
that. Just that, so you're seeing the mirroring of what happened in the first part with the opening scene with the guy coming to help people being unable to help him.
Exactly.
But just that like this, we have never seen this character before. We do not know who he is, but he's got a truck. I don't know what happened to their truck. Yeah, that he knows that Pumpkinhead's out to get them.
Right.
That like word has already spread.
Word has traveled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Around the holler.
Yeah. Cause it doesn't sound like, because I don't think Bunt ever like confesses that he told him where to get.
I don't think so.
No, because he just says that he finds out when Buck tells them later that some people from the city did bad things. So yeah, so I don't really know how the rest of the holler knows, unless Haggis was getting on her Facebook page, like update,
update, yeah,
blind item. Guess who showed up about their dead son?
Right, yeah. Teens fight a kid outside the house where the old man was and threaten him. Ed shows up, blasts Pumpkinhead with his shotgun. It goes down, and he even takes another shotgun blast to the head.
Yeah, this time
then gets up
from Joel. Right? Because Ed knows where they're at, which is again, I'm like, just leave. Like this is a small enough place, people are gonna know where you are. Just leave.
Go.
But yeah, so Ed shows up and like he's got to deal with Pumpkinhead. He started this. He's gonna end it. Shoots Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead goes down. Joel starts walking over to it, like, oh, he might not be dead, and then he shoots it like just point blank. So
point blank.
Dead.
Yeah.
And then oh, this is so cool what happens. This does feel like a very Jason thing, but it is.
Oh, for sure.
But it is very cool. Is that Pumpkinhead takes the shotgun, or trips up Joel, picks up the shotgun, like looks at it, and then stabs Joel with it. Then lifts him up with the shotgun.
Yes.
And it's a great shot, like lit from behind. I'm a sucker. You just put a big light in the woods shining through some trees.
Yep.
Love it. The backlit by that and just holding him up.
Yes,
it was great.
Yeah, that's definitely a Jason Voorhees moment. Like he learned by watching Friday the 13th movies, so he could up his cruelty game just a little bit.
Well, it is funny that here's this demon that apparently stems from the ground or some otherworldly thing, but somehow he knows how to sabotage a bike.
Yep,
but like doesn't know. I mean, I guess technically the shotgun might be empty, so maybe that's why he didn't use it.
Right.
Or it has the wherewithal to go see some Friday the 13th movies before. Okay, before I do some killing, I need to go get. Right. I need to have a bad influence by watching some slasher films.
Right. I need to learn from the master.
Yeah, so I can have some plausible deniability about it later.
Right. Pumpkinhead shows up at this like kind of burned out ruin of a church where everybody, these kids are just starting to like congregate there. It's a pretty fantastic set. I think it really works like a blasted out church. Yeah,
because Bunt has escaped from the Wallace compound because he had heard what happened and is like, oh crap, I probably made this happen. I gotta go find out about this, and sneaks out and runs into a couple of the kids and takes them to the church because he thinks like they try. And I like this little bit of backstory.
About 4 years ago, they tried to start a congregation up around here. It didn't work out, I guess.
Oh, right. What a great idea.
Yeah, that these mountain people like have their own thing. But like so they tried to quote unquote civilize them, and they're like, nah, we're good. So the church fell in disrepair.
That's another big folk horror.
Oh, absolutely,
thing. Bringing Christianity to the old ways, and that's just not going to work.
It's not working. But Bunt is like, but I'm pretty sure this is a holy place, so we'll be fine. They're not.
He starts skulking around and looks just like fantastic in all this blue lightning that's going off in the sky. And and then he just starts wrecking the place.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way, like when you see the creature move around, it's cool. Some of the earlier shots where it's like clearly like, oh, I can only lean out of a door this much to get you.
Yeah.
Less good. But in these moments, with the blue light, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah.
And he chases them out and then picks up a crucifix and like looks at it and then bashes it. It's kind of like, okay, I got it. You sort of made that point.
Totally.
But that one also just made it seem more like angry at God versus like this means nothing. Like indifferent or like the pitiable, this is garbage. I don't know. There's more just like, nah, you did this to me or something.
Yeah, totally.
More like vengeance. Which wasn't that the original title of this thing or a working title?
Oh, it did have a funny original title.
It was like Vengeance the Demon.
Yes.
So there's going to be,
I think that's it.
Yeah, there's going to be like a De Laurentiis group thing, but then they like caved and someone else picked it up. But Pumpkinhead is a much more evocative title, I think.
So much more memorable.
Yeah. Like he's never like called Pumpkinhead to his face or refers to him as that. It's just like that makes so much more sense that like that's what you would see and call him that. If you're just some backwoods yokel. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, he would never call it that to his face. Like, Pumpkinhead, please.
My father was Mr. Pumpkinhead. Call me Terry.
Yeah. Right.
Terry Pumpkinhead.
So Ed is in full remorse mode now that the Pumpkinhead is starting to kill everybody. And Guy starts up a chainsaw, but Pumpkinhead just tosses him to the side. And oh, wait, that's a dirt bike. Like, that was... I thought like the sound was like, oh my God, they're doing a chainsaw and going, oh no, it's just a dirt bike. And then they're tossing him across the stage.
He took the chain off of, and then just hurls him.
Right.
And so Lance Henriksen is like, all right, I've had it with this. I'm going to fix something. And so he goes to get the flamethrower we saw him at the beginning with.
Yep.
And I like this moment. And again, I feel like this could have been filmed a little bit better, where he's walking out and the hose catches on like a nail as he's walking to the barn. So he turned, like it causes his body to turn and land in a pitchfork. Mm-hmm. And like you could have gotten some neat gore out of there when he's pulling it out. But it's kind of hidden again, like the way the scene is blocked or whatever. You can still tell what's happening, but I think you could have give it a little bit more oomph. But who am I to question Stan Winston?
Anybody who saw Gnome Named Gnorm.
Yes, that's right. But Lance Henriksen is getting increasingly fucked up looking. Like his eyes are all looking weird now, and this
is cool.
Deaths are weighing on him, not just emotionally.
Pumpkinhead, I put here, Pumpkinhead sure knows how to make an entrance. He throws open the doors, he knocks people out, and then he starts leaking through the cabin with that like great snake hissing sound, the rattling that they use quite a lot during the movie, actually.
Mm-hmm. I love the closet scene with Bunt, where the Bunt is hiding in the closet, and then like Pumpkinhead opens the door to like look for him and like doesn't see him, and then turns around and is like, "Ha, you're right there."
Yeah,
like, just toying with him. Mm-hmm. And also, we haven't really mentioned it yet, but Pumpkinhead is changing.
Yes,
he's gone from this very kind of much more not sleek, but just a much more like his face is taking fuller form. It was this very kind of simple face, but it's like the snout is getting a little bit more protruded, and he's got those awesome teeth. The way they make his lip curl in a couple of places, that was super cool.
In the baby version, he looked almost like a gray alien.
Yes, totally.
Because he was so flat and small, but now, he's getting the protruded, like more three-dimensional face.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of the alien abomination thing at the end of Alien Resurrection, the fourth one.
Yep, the Ripley clone plus alien plus something. Yeah. So we start cross-cutting with Ed, who's starting to get weird again. He's got milky eyes, and that's when, he stabs himself on a pitchfork. But the Pumpkinhead is also feeling the pain. So we got the pain. So we've got ourselves a real like Crow situation, or the brothers in the Cobra Command. I can't remember what they're called.
Climax and Zaymot.
I knew you'd know it, so I didn't even bother to look up.
I don't have loved ones or friends. I have Domex and Zaymot.
Yeah, right. They'll be your friends.
They're my real friends.
Yeah. So Pumpkinhead's starting to take on a much more human quality, and hey, it's kind of like, hey, everybody, you get it. They are resembling each other. They are connected, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, because its face now like looks like Lance Henriksen a little bit.
Yeah,
man, that just sent the mind reeling, because it's like, okay, so is it absorbing him fully, and like this is like this almost again this sort of cruel mockery of like, you did this, so I'm taking on your face? Is it gonna become Lance Henriksen?
Right, exactly.
Is Lance Henriksen turning into a Pumpkinhead, and they're gonna like meet in the middle as these weird couple of Brundleflies going around?
Exactly.
I like that's never fully explained.
How do you tell them apart with those faces? I don't know.
I don't know who to shoot.
Shoot him. He's the real Pumpkinhead. No, he's the real Pumpkinhead.
Ask me something only Pumpkinhead would know.
Right.
But, and I'm sure the later ones will give us too much information. But
too much info. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that vagueness, because it makes it even creepier, because you're not entirely sure what's happening. And it made me think again of a great Clive Barker short story in the Books of Blood called Human Remains. It's kind of about a similar thing. And so I think some of my excitement was thinking about that story. It's like, oh yeah, that story's great. Yeah. So this movie must be great. But what follows is a little bit less exciting.
Right. Yeah. So Ed shoots the demon with a revolver and then falls over just as he's as affected, just as Pumpkinhead would be. The woman snags the pistol and shoots Ed Hurley on his request.
Yeah, well, Ed
which
Hurley
of course makes Pumpkinhead fall over, also maybe dead.
Well, Ed Hurley tries to shoot himself in the head and somehow misses. He's in the car.
Right.
He's got the gun up to his temple. You hear a bang. He stumbles out with a head wound.
Right.
What happened there, Ed? How did
he
you
wasn't
miss?
committed to the bit,
I guess.
Yeah.
But I also like, though, because when he's on the ground, but again, like you could leap to a thing of that he can't die or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that he can't get himself out of this. Don't know. But it did seem kind of silly. Mm-hmm. But he falls down. Yeah, girl gets the pistol. He's like, shoot me. But then Pumpkinhead like has control of him because he like stands up and it's all like creepy. Which I thought, again, was like this surprise. Like, okay, I again, mysterious. Liked where this is going. Mm-hmm. She puts him away, fires all bunch into him, and Pumpkinhead falls over and then spontaneously combusts.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because it's we've seen a flamethrower before in this movie, but so Pumpkinhead still goes out by fire, but not at the behest of Ed Hurley's flamethrower. So
it's so like I did like how they introduced all these creepy elements to it. Like, you're not entirely sure what's happening, but never really fully explored them. I think with this, how kind of broad as this story is, it adds a lot to it. Makes it kind of has that sort of fairy tale folklore sort of feel to it.
Last shot of the movie, we crane up to see the hag burying what looks like Ed's body in Pumpkinhead's grave. So we've got Pumpkin Ed, I suppose.
Yes, Pumpkinhead. That's the British one.
And I'm not going to do it. Sorry to our British friends. We zoom in on the necklace charm around his neck that his little boy gave him. Yeah. So does this imply that, he will be the next Pumpkinhead? It seems like that.
Yeah. It seems like with the overall sort of arc of this vengeance becoming an all-consuming thing and changing you and transforming you into something bad, that when you summon Pumpkinhead, you end up becoming Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the first time we see Pumpkinhead, the theory is that it takes that guy, kills him, but then what does Pumpkinhead do? Does he just like put on his little fedora and be like, well, on my way, pick up a briefcase,
job's
and go?
Done.
My guess is
clocks out like Looney Tunes.
Right, yeah, totally.
Sam. Yeah.
See you tomorrow, Sam. But what happened to him? Did he like go then kill the guy that summoned him? We don't know. But did the guy become Pumpkinhead? The same, what was happening to him, happening to Lance Henriksen? Mm-hmm. Whatever happened to Lance Henriksen he is now going to be the next Pumpkinhead.
But I think that works with just the whole like fairy tale morality tale angle of this completely. Like if you summon a vengeance demon, you can't decide halfway through like, oh shit, I shouldn't have summoned a vengeance demon. I give it all back. So I guess they don't think that, man can be reformed. Once you've made this decision, you are on your way to living out your days. Well, until someone summons you, which hopefully will happen in the next movie.
Well, and hopefully, this is good news for the little kid at the beginning that they were taunting with taking the ball. It's like, well, if you're bad, Pumpkinhead's going to get you. No, I have to be bad to someone.
Right.
And if you want to summon a demon to come kill me because I took your ball, that's on you. That's not my problem. That's your problem. But I do think, I do know that eventually the last two of the Pumpkinhead movies are Sci-Fi Channel movies, which strap in for those that Lance Henriksen is involved in and is not happy he was involved in. So
I'm sure
they're somehow going to bring his character back. So we'll see if in 2 it's indeed the same story, or if they pull a Wishmaster on us and it's like, no, it's a different Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, exactly.
This one was in like Appalachia. This Pumpkinhead, he's going to be down in Arkansas.
Right. Well, let's honor our dead. I believe there are about 6 or 7 of them this time. Tom Harley, played by Lee Debra, thrown against rock, clawed in chest. Billy Harley, played by Matthew Hurley, hit by a motorcycle. Steve, played by Joel Hoffman, lifted and fell to the ground. Maggie, played by Carrie Remsen, lifted up, dragged to house. Kim, played by Kimberly Ross, dragged off screen. Joel, played by John DeQuino, impaled through chest with shotgun. Ed Harley, played by Lance Henriksen, shot in the chest by Tracy. So getting right to the killings, we had 7 deaths in this. We've got 4 films. Do you go the even 28? Do you think that the kill count goes up, especially considering they are Sci-Fi Network movies? One thing that I will point out before we make these calls, I would argue that the death scenes are not at all the focus of this movie.
No,
because they're not set up like magic tricks like in Friday the 13th or any of these other slashers where they want to constantly up their game by seeing how you can skewer a human body. Mm-hmm. This is more about atmosphere. Like, he just drags a few of these people off screen, frankly.
Yeah.
So I don't think so. Would it be better if there was more gore? I mean, usually. Yeah. But that's not really the purpose of these films. But maybe as they go on, they decide, hey, we got to up the game of the slasher style. So there's a lot to consider.
Yeah, because I mean, you have like we talked about with Joel's kill, and then like Maggie's, those were like kills with personality. Mm-hmm. And so, I think you're probably going to see an uptick in those. And does that mean the body count's going to go down or stay the same, but just increase that? I bet. We're getting into the tail end of the 80s here, and we're going to get into the 90s, and I think even into the 2000s with the Sci-Fi Channel ones, is that I think some of the focus changes a bit on that as far as like getting a kill every page or, every so many pages. So I still think there's going to be more. I think we're probably looking at something closer to 35, 40.
Okay. Going 35, 40.
Yeah, I'm going to go in the middle, say 37.
I'm going to go 32.
Okay.
Because I kind of feel like once you get to those sci-fi ones, they might try to pull back a little bit on it.
Yeah, I think I likely overshot because I think you're going to find that these are going to end up being smaller and smaller stories. But I would like to see Pumpkinhead kill more people.
I'd like to see Pumpkinhead go to college, like Wishmaster and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Was that part 4?
That was part
where Wishmaster
3.
goes to college?
That was...
Okay.
Part 4 is when the prophecy was fulfilled.
Oh, right. How could I forget?
Right. The prophecy.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of this movie. I still am. It's that atmosphere. It's the folklore. It's the writing. Of course we'll have quibbles about this kind of stuff, but overall, this is a great movie. I mean, it's super fun.
It suffers from budget, and I don't love a lot of the performances, but Lance Henriksen and Florence Schaffler's Haggis, I really like her. Which apparently I was reading somewhere that the makeup and all the things she was wearing ended up being like 65 pounds. I'm like, that seems wild. Ooh, I don't know if that's, I didn't have that confirmed. But it just made me think of the suits they wore the spacesuits they wore in Event Horizon.
Oh yeah.
Were like so heavy. They had to like hang themselves up between scenes.
Damn. Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know if that looks that heavy, but I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Just some of the like first time director lacks some of the polish that it possibly could have, but still like it's surprisingly, it's better than I thought it would be. Like when I found out what the budget was, I was very surprised. I thought it was going to be more money than that. Sam Winston makes it work.
I don't want to say this in a cynical way necessarily, but I have to wonder if like him getting, maybe I'm just looking for a positive light, but him just not directing another picture, whether it was his decision not to or a studio's decision or something like that, and like kind of quote unquote busting him back down to effects supervisor.
Yeah.
Then he goes on to create Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park. So it's almost like, you are so damn good, stay in your box, buddy, and you'll get Oscars.
Well, he did direct the Terminator 2 music video for Guns N' Roses, You Could Be Mine.
I did see that.
Which, I loved that video. That's
exactly.
Axl Rose, Waste of Ammo. Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, so good. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for somebody stretching and trying another thing to see if they like it, see if they're good at it. Like, for all I know, maybe he was just like, it's too much. I don't want to direct anymore. Like, I would rather make dinosaurs for Spielberg. That sounds amazing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so after he kind of decided, I don't need to direct anymore, maybe that's when he just like upped his game in effects.
Or,
I'll count that as a good thing.
He just went, hey, Gnome Named Gnorm, I'm not going to get better than this. I'm going to retire.
It's true.
Top of the game. Hang up my jersey.
Yeah. And so I have succeeded in 2 films. I do not need to seek a re-election for a second term, sis.
Having achieved all my goals.
Yeah. There's your, on a Gnome Named Gnorm. There's your obscure Simpsons reference.
Damn it. I was going to make a joke about Wallace's compound and all of Cletus's kids.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that.
But you went Craster.
I went Craster.
The more modern take,
Mm-hmm. Although I'm not implying the same things with Craster.
Yeah,
with
gross.
Craster,
right.
I mean, it is whatever.
Anyway, so yes, watch Pumpkinhead if you haven't already. I'm very much looking forward to Pumpkinhead Part 2.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I think we're just gonna.
This is where we're
be
peaking.
Straight down. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go. I go into these with an open mind, but I'm not holding up a lot of hopes.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, we could have just another Wishmaster series on our hands.
Yeah.
Like the first one is actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Second one could be, and then 3 or 4 might just be kind of a slog.
Yeah, which would be again funny for an effects helmed thing.
Precisely.
Which I will also give Stan Winston credit for that this isn't unlike Wishmaster and not take away from Wishmaster because we have our positive opinions about Wishmaster. You can listen to that episode, but just that, this is going to be an effects movie, like a creature movie. I'll just make this creature. I'll have the people I can count on to do it. They'll handle it great, but I'm going to be more worried about this other stuff. It's making atmosphere.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, we'll do this gag, this gag, this gag, this gag, this gag.
Right.
It felt very good. It didn't feel like focused on it.
Sure.
Which is, you would think for Stan Winston that would be like, no, let's get when the creature's not on the screen, people should be asking, where's the creature?
Where's the creature? Yes.
So yeah, no, I totally credit for that. And so we'll see if they keep that on with the next one or what happens. But I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm cautiously optimistic, but not even that optimistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm cautiously not even that optimistic.
Yeah, I'm just like, I hope 2's good, but we'll see.
Yeah. We signed up for this, and damn it, we're going to see all 4 through.
Damn straight.
And so what's going on over at John and Alex Hate Stuff?
Over on John and Alex Hate Stuff, we just did Skinamarink, and keeping our October Fright Fest going, we're moving straight into No One Will Save You.
Great. And if you like original spooky stories, check out Please Leave. Especially, I mean, come on, guys, it's Halloween time, so we all want to fill our ears with even more of that kind of stuff. I just wrote one called The Eyes Behind the Bramble. It's kind of a cosmic folky horror type of thing. My business partner writes most of them.
Pairs well with Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, there you go. But check that out if you'd like some original horror. And, of course, you can email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com or find us on Instagram, which we're a little bit more active on, over at thismayhurtabitpod over there as well. Twitter kind of comes and goes, depending on my mood and how much social media I want to engage with. Anyway, but I've already seen that several people are watching Pumpkinhead on their own, which always warms my pumpkin-y heart.
Yes.
And a couple of you are already on to Pumpkinhead 2. That rules. And I'm sorry, but I scrolled past it real quick because I don't want to be influenced on what I think about it.
Yeah.
No spoilies for Pumpkinhead Part 2, please. But I love that that some people are watching along with us. So that's really great. Oh, and this just occurred to me too. Even though we already did our Psycho wrap up last week, a friend of the show, Becky Darke, who was on our first Saw episode a while ago, she wrote up a great article about the Arrow Video Psycho box set that just came out. So I'll be sure to include that in our show notes as well, so you can check that out because she's always doing something cool over there.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you next time for Pumpkinhead 2, and again, this will come out in just 1 week because we're in the month of October and it's about time we did so. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
This has been a Two Penguins media production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and on Twitter at hurtabit. Email us at thismayhurtabit@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.